me.
It's hard to trace America's interest in anime to any singular moment or title. It's a process that grew upon itself and changed as the years went by. But if you ask me, there are two series that could at least be credited with getting the ball rolling: Voltron and Robotech. Both were broadcast around the same time, and both were basically chopped up and rewritten versions of unrelated anime titles. Voltron being pieced together from the shows Beast King Go Lion and Armored Fleet Dairuger 15, and Robotech being pieced together from Southern Cross, Mospeada, and the subject of today's episode, Super Dimension Fortress Macross. Actually, I'm talking about its sort of sequel. Well, really, it's a non-canon sequel to the film Do You Remember Love, which was a spin-off of the original Macross series, which was rendered completely unwatchable by having 30 minutes edited out, given a hack dub job, and then renamed Clash of the Bionoids during a very limited US release. You get all that? The title may be Macross 2 the movie, but it's actually a 6-episode OVA that was edited together to become feature-length. Even though it's technically a sequel, you don't actually have to know the entire meta-series to understand what's going on. If you want my overall opinion, I'm pretty nostalgic for the entire Macross series, but even I will admit it gets downright silly at points. So join me on a trip down memory lane, and I promise I won't get offended if you bust out laughing. You bastards. Like I said, the story is a sequel, but there's not a lot of background info you need to know going in. There are humans, and there are aliens who want to kill the humans, and the humans fight back with a super fortress called Macross. That's all you really need to know. Oh, and warfare is carried out via J-pop. No, I'm not kidding. It's very hard to defend that, I'll admit, but I'm gonna try anyway. Macross was a product of its era, Japan in the 1980s, where pop singers experienced a sort of renaissance that the country never experienced before or since. If you think about it, this is pretty similar to how most sci-fi is written anyway. Writers often craft their own vision of what the future might be based on the time of their writing. You know how in the 1960s Star Trek they still had analog buttons and levers, even though it's supposed to be 2260? Sure, you have to consider the budget constraints at the time, but how was anyone supposed to know that everything would be handled by touchscreens and voice commands? No wonder that in the new Star Trek, the USS Enterprise looks like it was shed out of Steve Jobs' ass. You think in another 50 years' time, when Star Trek is rebooted, the people of the future will look back on J.J. Abrams' Star Trek the way we look back on the original Star Trek? Does this excuse the silly plot point of having pop singers sing to inspire their troops to fight on? No, but at least this has some real-life context behind it, unlike some other titles I can think of.
It's a good day to die when you know the reasons why. Citizens, we fight for what is right.
It's been 80 years since the first Macross movie, and it seems that humanity has kind of become complacent with their position in the universe, having only infrequent attacks by alien forces, the last one being 10 years ago. So naturally, our hero isn't a soldier, but rather a journalist named Hibiki.
What do you mean, the facts? The fact is they weren't planning military strategy in their hotel.
You have infringed upon their right to privacy. You must believe almost anything is considered justified.
Okay, strike two. Yeah, the dub is pretty god-awful. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. At the very least, though, there are some good actors here trying to work the best with what they have, but the direction is all over the place, and there's just no consistency. However, with the bad comes the good. The long-standing peace has been broken when enemy ships start closing in, leading Hibiki to suit up and come into the field to report on the upcoming confrontation. But he won't be alone.
Hi, I'm, it can't be you.
Yeah, kid. It's me. Just keep this thing upright.
Oh god. Who thought it was a bright idea to have Mustache here voiced by Eeyore?
Okay, let's blast off into space so we can report on the battle. We'll probably die in the crossfire. If we're lucky.
Just when you think you've seen every way a voice actor can suck. Naturally, the humans try to thwart the advancing enemy with J-pop, but the aliens have a secret weapon of their own. Women who sing their own songs and have voices like a fucking theremin. Hibiki can't stand the sight of his fellow man losing, but in comes Mustache to toss him pearls of wisdom by the fistful.
What do you think war is? It's not a variety show. War is tragedy. We're not trying to win ratings.
All we're doing is holding a mirror to humanity and showing them a grim reality. That life is nothing but a grinding trudge set to a funeral dirge. Oh no. I just made myself sad.
Do you think Earth has the greatest culture? Bullshit. Stop thinking you know anything about culture.
The fuck are you talking about? This guy is just endlessly fascinating to me. He's like everyone's grad school brother who hasn't gotten a job, but thinks he has it all figured out because he reads way too much Nietzsche. Hey, Mustache, I can read The Antichrist and Beyond Good and Evil too, but you don't see me crying into the abyss. This episode. Apparently, Mustache's rambling, morose speech awakens some kind of courage in Hibiki and jets off into an exploding enemy ship, because today's a good day to die in Valhalla and whatever. They happened upon an unconscious enemy singer and decide to take her with them because why not? But Mustache is fatally wounded by a well-placed and timed explosion, leaving Hibiki to blast off with the girl in tow. So in the course of a single episode, Mustache's character arc went from morose and unhappy to morose and dead. Brilliant. Hibiki brings the alien girl back to his house, who wakes up to find him pointing a video camera at her, while she's in her underwear, and she can barely understand what Hibiki is saying. Alright, let's put ourselves in this girl's position, shall we? We're half naked, we wake up in a complete stranger's house, and we wake up to find that same stranger pointing a camera at us, who then climbs on top of us to force something into our ears. The thing that kills me about this scene is that at first he tries to tell her in his broken alien tongue that it's a translator, and when she doesn't buy it, he actually has to think to force it in her ear. But it gets worse.
Sorry I scared you. Drink this.
Yes, drink this. But if you're not thirsty, that's okay. Just smell this rag.
We'll be right back.
Shifting gears as fast as possible, the girl, whose name is Ishtar, and no, I will not make that reference, disappears while Hibiki was busy yelling at the television station for censoring his war footage. How exactly Ishtar ran off, I don't know. I think it's implied she went out the sliding glass door here, and then dropped several stories down to the ground below. I think what happened was that they needed a way to stretch out the story to fit 6 episodes, because all this scene is just Ishtar walking around and absorbing the strange Earth customs.
How come you listen to that bag of wind when you can hear our band? This'll blow you away.
It's like this song is willing itself to be Master of Puppets. After being confused by the music and the smiling at the people around her, she finally runs herself out into a forest where Hibiki finds her somehow. See what I mean about stretching out the story? They just have Hibiki come out of nowhere to comfort her after she bamfed out of the apartment for no reason?
Why on earth did you ever run away from Hibiki? Maybe he does act like a brat, but he has a very pure heart. Was Hibiki ungentlemanly?
I went out to find the ship.
Oh, the old fortress that changed the Zentradi with a love song.
Oh, she was looking for Macross. Well, I guess that makes some sort of... Was that another campy, swishy gay man? Sweet Jesus, he has tits! I mean, she has tits! Guys, I need a moment here. So, Ibiki takes Ishtar out on a date to see important landmarks of Earth's history, or at least replicas of them. Either that or they're teleporting from Italy to Easter Island in the span of a single cut. But the date's interrupted by some enemy scout ships that are looking for Ishtar. The two are saved by a pilot named Sylvie, who leads them to safety into some nearby ruins, which in the mother of all coincidences is where Macross is being kept. If there's one thing that really nags at me about Macross 2, it's the fact that so many plot points are resolved or brought up by pure coincidence, or in script writing terms, convenience. Ishtar tells Hibiki that she needs to find Macross to find out more about herself, but she says this after they've headed back to his apartment. If it was so important for her to find it, why did she and Hibiki not go into Macross when they had the chance? Maybe they were distracted by the upcoming Lunar Festival, a propaganda pep rally meant to give thanks to the Earth's military. We cut to Sylvie and her date talking about the futility of the festival when the alien threat still lingers.
Song and dance, it's more than that. Don't you see?
Well, maybe. But I still think...
Sylvie, don't.
Now, what did we say about you and thinking? The last time you tried to do that, you pulled your frontal lobe. Realizing that they should have done this hours ago, Ishtar and Hibiki explored the preserved fortress Macross. After activating the long dormant systems, Ishtar finally comes clean with Hibiki.
I am an emulator, a Marduk priestess to the Alice Nova.
A Marduk? But I thought you were a Meltron.
Meltron, Marduk, let's split the difference and say you're from Melmac. Ishtar recounts her role in the Melmac army, using her singing voice to drive soldiers onto war. But for the first time, she realizes that music can mean more than for soldiers to march into battle. It's actually kind of a nice, touching scene, especially when Sylvie catches them and learns of Ishtar's identity, only for her to let her go when she realizes that the enemy are probably being brainwashed into attacking them. It's moments like this that reminds me why I'm so nostalgic for Macross. In between some pretty shaky writing and silly moments, there are times where the story gives you pause and makes you realize that there is a little bit more here than just dogfights in space. But that moment slips right from your hands like a bar of soap when we smash cut into the Lunar Festival. Well, it was nice while it lasted. Actually, in a kind of clever twist, the Melmac see this display and figure that the Earth is mobilizing a counterattack and moves in. They capture a fighter jet with Sylvie inside, but Ishtar contacts them and negotiates Sylvie's safe return for her cooperation. While Ishtar and Hibiki are captured and brought aboard the Melmac flagship, Sylvie decides to take matters into her own hands.
Tell us now, what form of infusion did you use to alter her mind?
That's absurd. Why would I have to do a thing like that?
Even if you have contaminated Ishtar, we will cleanse her of your insidious mental pollution.
Wait a minute. If the Melmacs don't know anything about Earth culture, to the point where they confuse the Lunar Festival with actual military movement, why the fuck would they know their language? Well, I guess you can only have your voice actors fake Klingon for so long without drowning your studio mic in saliva. Sylvie manages to board the flagship without anyone noticing, or guarding for that matter. She just kind of finds Hibiki being kept prisoner and guides him back to her ship to go and rescue Ishtar. If only we had something like guards, or sentries, or security cameras, or hell, maybe if we just locked his cell. Damn you, hindsight! Ishtar is led back into the Melmac's care, which means re-brainwashing her into complete compliance.
Ishtar, areas te ewaas. To raise our voice only in battle is wrong. Listen, young one. The things you have heard have deceived you about them.
You know your voice acting sucks when you sound more believable speaking a made-up language. While Ishtar tells of her newfound love of Earth's music, Sylvie and Hibiki have been zooming through the Melmac base trying to find her. You know, you have to wonder what the contingency plan was for the Melmacs if they had an intruder, because they are just fucking inept. Are they really so hapless without a woman screeching in their ear to fight? Worst brainwashed soldiers ever.
Forgive me, Lady Ellinge, but I cannot stop them. The songs I heard on the planet of Alus are coming forward to gain control.
If only you knew. If only you heard. The California girls. sun-kissed skin, melted popsicles. And on cue, Ishtar starts singing a song she heard on Earth, which leads Sylvie and Ibiki right to her, but this also causes the Melmac Emperor to take notice and orders the entire ship to be destroyed so that her corruption won't spread. Ishtar is picked up by her, I want to say her caretaker, Lord Feh, who manages to escape the ship before it's purged, as well as Sylvie and Ibiki. Yeah, Hibiki is kind of pointless here. Really, this is Ishtar's story, and Sylvie, while I really haven't talked about her, does way more in the story than any other side character. Hibiki is just kind of there. I mean, yeah, he plays tour guide for Ishtar, and he brought her over to Earth in the first place, but after the first act, he just kind of exists as a non-entity in the plot. Hell, just make Sylvie the main character. That way we can have an awesome Yuri subplot going. Holla for my lesbian sisters! The welcome wagon leaves a lot to be desired for the two, as Sylvie reports in with what she found on board the Melmac ship. Making matters worse is Ibiki hijacking the Earth's broadcast center to show footage of the ship, and warns of their impending attack that the Earth government has been trying to downplay. Yeah, that's a plot point that I haven't really talked about until now. Every battle that has happened over the course here has either been lied about or has been downplayed. And I'm not sure why. The show makes a point to say that the military is concerned that the civilians would panic if they knew the strength of the enemy, but how does that exactly help in the long run if people aren't prepared for a hostile invasion? Hell, even Hibiki makes that point with Sylvie, but it's like the show kind of shrugs it off and doesn't confront the fact that the military is so inept at its job that it's a wonder they weren't conquered by Marvin the Martian.
Place Lieutenant Gina under arrest. And do the same with this propagandist.
So, the two people that bring you proof of an alien invasion, you reward with imprisonment. That, you don't see assholery of that magnitude every day. Throwing Ibiki in prison I get because of his hijacked broadcast, but Sylvie? She didn't do shit. And just to rub it in, they wind up using the evidence they gathered for the Melmac assault. This is like if in Star Wars they threw Han Solo into prison for being a smuggler, and yet they still use the Millennium Falcon for their assault on the Death Star. It looks like the Earth's forces are in trouble, as even their most powerful weapons aren't enough to wipe out the sheer numbers of the Melmac. Further, even with their side readily winning, the Emperor decides to unleash what he calls the Death Song, causing all of his soldiers to go into blood frenzy and kamikaze any nearby ships. Let's see here. Songs that can cause people to go into blood frenzy. Already used the Jason Derulo joke last episode. Fuck it, go with the standby. Lord Feh decides that he doesn't want to follow his Emperor's orders if it means Celine Dion has to be piped in through the loudspeakers, and decides to let Ishtar go, knowing that this will cause the Emperor to lay waste to his ship.
No one will know my failure. That I dare to love above my station.
Wow, that's actually a pretty heavy moment. You see what I mean about Macross 2? There are these legitimate, good little pockets of entertainment here, but to get to it, you have to go through Eeyore-sounding assholes and androgynous hairstylists that make you question how you lived your life. Wait, I mean... yeah, the Melmacs are gunning for Earth, but Ishtar is on her way to power the Macross and sing her song to thwart the enemy invasion. And it looks like Sylvie caught a break and helps Ibiki escape with her again. I'm just saying, if Ibiki weren't here, we could all be enjoying some Scissor Sister action. That's all I'm saying. The two make their way to Macross with Ishtar not far off.
Sit there.
So, the big technological wonder horse that's going to save humanity runs on floppy disks. Man, if only the future knew about USB. With the Macross fully powered up, they fire their entire payload at the main Melmac base, and it barely leaves a scratch. But don't despair, folks, because Ishtar is here to teach the world to sing. Actually, she uses something more insidious. Passive aggression. Yup, she basically tells the entire fleet to not destroy the Earth and listen to their songs, and when the rest of the Melmac singers ask why they have to destroy the Earth in the first place, the Emperor just kills them. Bold strategy. The ghosts of Charlemagne, Patton, and Akbar would be proud. And that's when Ishtar goes in for the death blow and sings her sappy J-pop song that causes the Emperor to lose his shit and blow up more of his own ships. Finally getting through their head that their Emperor is kind of off his rocker, Lord Feh orders all remaining ships to fire on the Emperor's fortress and destroys it. So it wasn't the power of love or song that wound up winning the day, it was the power of your boss is a dick. With the Emperor defeated, a treaty is reached with Earth and the Melmacs, and peace is forever attained. The end. Looking at this movie again, I get why the creators considered this to be non-canon. It's not bad, really, it's just not very good. And while newcomers can watch this without being confused, it's not exactly a good introduction to the series. That distinction, however, belongs to another entry in the franchise. But we're going to have to get to this little puppy in a little bit. Right now it's February, and romance is in the air. So we might as well play along with it. Till next time. Which was rendered completely unwatchable by having 30 minutes edited out and then given a hack dub job and renamed Clash of the Bionoids. And I'm holding the VHS tape the wrong way. Great.